Well, Brad, we've finally done it. We are
Yeah.
doing this thing. I didn't think we'd be starting a podcast, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting journey. I'm glad that we started it.
Yeah,
So
it was
I'm Brad, by the way.
and I'm Matt.
I'm a
And
I'm a senior business analyst and just all around geek. If you look up geek in the dictionary, you're gonna find a picture of me. That's my plan anyway.
right. And I'm Matt, and I'm just a geek at heart. I run a couple YouTube channels. And I work in mental health, and this is kind of just my fun project to help get things out.
So how about we start the show with the check-in? So we're going to do a little check-in question, just some fun, get stuff running. So the check-in question for today, it's a bit of a two-parter. Tell us about one good thing that's happened in the past week and maybe one obstacle that you've overcome.
Oh man. All right. So one good thing that's happened to me is I am now a partner with a small press publishing company called Tea with Coffee Media. And so I've been brought on as partner to help them promote their new authors. Well, not necessarily new authors, but their new authors' new work. So if they have a book coming out or they've had a book come out recently and they need somebody to do interviews with them for promo, that's where I come in, and I'll do an interview with the author and kind of share their story in their book and any previous work and kind of hype up their new books they have coming out, which is a big step for me and my work. So I thought that's probably my top favorite thing, um, because I'm now on their website and it's all official. So pretty happy about that.
Nice, that's
Um,
awesome.
one obstacle I've overcome was probably uh, I've been having a lot of internet trouble and a lot of tech trouble lately. And I finally figured that out after some digging and just working on it by myself and really teaching myself. So that's definitely the biggest obstacle I've overcome for sure. What about you?
Well, one of the lessons that I've learned is that if you're in a rush to get something done, it's probably when the computer knows, like they write that in the code, and that's when everything just grounds to a halt. Um,
Probably.
I, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I think my good thing and the thing that I overcame are both the same. I started the week out at work with just a ton of stuff to get done. We were talking like a list of things. I'm like, how will I ever get through this? So when Friday came, I'm like, whoa, I did it. I got through it. I got everything done. So I was very excited about that. I felt very accomplished. Went into the weekend and my desk area was just a mess because I had been doing so much stuff. I just had papers and things thrown everywhere. It was horrible. So actually, with the help of my wife, we got together. We cleaned up the whole area. Nice little area. You see in the background is our cleanup thing. So that was my good thing and the obstacle because of work that pushed me into it. So I kind of cheated a little bit, I think.
I mean, it's a two for one, really. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good thing because the week was over, but also you got your office cleaned up. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that because, at least for me, a clean workspace helps majorly with everything.
That
Um,
reminds me of that joke. Guys like, oh, a clean desk is no, a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. And then the other guy says, oh, well, what does your empty desk then say about you?
wow. Wow. I have never heard that one before, but that is really good. That ouch.
So why don't we tell people about why we came up with this podcast, where it sort of came from? You want to
So
start?
yeah, I'll start. So this podcast pretty much came about uh, because I reached out to Brad to do an interview on my YouTube channel, one of them, and I was like, "Hey, would you like to come on my YouTube channel and kind of talk about your brand, Geek Wisdom, and some of the things that you do?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to." So from there, we started talking about everything. We did the interview. We had such a great time doing that, and it blew up. And I was just like, this is reigniting something for me. And so I messaged him and I said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast? Like, we should do a podcast."
Yeah,
And yeah, here we are.
yeah. And I mean,
uh,
I like I said, doing a podcast has been something that's in my mind for a long time. It's like, oh, it'd be really great to try it. And I'm like, I don't know, just talking myself on the screen never really felt like it would work for me. Like it wouldn't have
Right.
that style. I'm like, who could I have that banter with? We did that show and it just played so well back and forth. And like you said, it's been 2 weeks now and the views just keep going up. I'm like, that is awesome. Like that's people are actually interested in that. So I'm like, let's talk about more stuff geek because I'm like, that just seems like the thing, like the and that's sort of our dream, which I think is how we
Right.
kind of came up with the name, right? It's like a geek dream team. So yeah, that's I think it's an awesome idea, and I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to record more shows. We're thinking of releasing the shows on the same day every month, which I believe this one is going to be for March 4th, and then we'll be the 4th every month after that. So I think that's our plan. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think it was funny because when I sent you a message, I was like, and you responded back. I'm like, there's no way he's going to say yes. Let's just be honest here. He's got kids, he's got a family, he's got a regular job. My job is good, but it doesn't take up as much time as his. And he's like, oh my god, he's like, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I'm like, yes, let's do this. Um,
The other thing that's really neat is we sort of had some pre chats about how we sort of also have different backgrounds and different
right,
experience in doing different things. Like the beautiful logo that you see and the different trailer logos, Matt, you put them all together. I can play around with some of the tech side of things. Whether it be some different audio files, putting the podcast part together. So
right,
we play off one another really well, not just on screen, but I thought off screen and sort of collaborating. So, like I
right.
said, it's really cool. And earlier I said this is going to be awesome. This is awesome. We're doing it right now.
Yes, I was about to say that. One thing too that I found really awesome is, speaking of you mentioning that we kind of play to our strengths. When I came to you and I said, "Hey, what kind of social media should we have for a podcast?" And I was like, "I know Facebook really well because I have my own pages and I run a few others, and I know the YouTube side really well because, well, I have two YouTube channels." I was like, I'll take care of that stuff. If you want to take care of what you know best, you come together and geek powers unite, and we have a great show.
Yeah, for
So I
sure. Like I
mean,
said,
that's that's just the way it is. Um, One thing that I did want us to talk about today was the ways that people can interact with us on the show. So, do you want to talk a little bit about some of that?
well, we started a Facebook channel, which is also called the Geek Dream Team. We have social media presence on Twitter. I mean, one of the main things I think around the Facebook site and the Facebook group, people can post their comments. They can put their ideas there. They can give us suggestions of things that they might want to hear. I know that two of the segment ideas we had would be uh, Ask a Geek, where you can basically ask us any question we want, and then we'll take some time near the end of the show to talk about that question. If it gets a lot of popular comments and a lot of people want to talk about it. So we'll put that on the show. I think the main idea is we want our viewers to really feel like they can interact and be part of the show and they're with us. So they
Yeah,
can say things, we can respond back to them, and we can kind of play off of each other. You mentioned doing this new thing where you're sort of promoting authors, right? Well, let's let our audience get the chance to have their 15 minutes,
yeah,
of fame. Have them say the things, have us share those things, and get the momentum going that way. And I think that's really where our social media can go. So definitely, if you haven't signed up yet, I think people need to sign up for that. And Facebook,
right,
you can follow us on any social media you want. I think our Facebook group is probably where you're going to see
right.
most of the interaction.
Yeah. The two biggest places are YouTube and Facebook. I check both of them very frequently. So generally, you'll be able to get a hold of me on one, and we'll see your comments. One thing that I'm kind of doing, so we have some stuff up on the Facebook page besides episodes and trailers, is I've taken our backgrounds and kind of made a few geek quotes that are really good. So I'm going to be kind of releasing them here and there, sprinkled in between our episodes and things like that, as something for you guys to kind of get a feel of what we're thinking and where we're coming from and our mindset and things that we enjoy. So I thought that was a really good thing. So that's why when I emailed you the other day, Brad, I was like, "Hey, do you have any quotes that you really like?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You could probably tell by what I'm asking you what I'm doing."
And like I'm like, what an awesome question, because I literally have hundreds of quotes that I've collected over I don't know how many years. That I snip them,
Right.
I copy, I paste them into a thing. I'm like, quote for this, quote for this, quote for this. Like I love quotes. I love just the thought of looking at something when you start your day and just having it there. And so hopefully that does it for our audience too, is that they'll be able to look at that and be like, oh, that's, maybe it's your message for the day. Who knows?
Yeah. And so my thought was really just to add some extra value for those people who are investing their time in us to take the time to come watch our show and check out our channel. I want to be able to give something back to them, and this is just one thing that I can do. So, like, hey, we're thinking about you guys today. Here's a quote, whether it be inspirational or to give you a giggle or whatever the case may be. It's for you guys to be able to enjoy. So that was my whole thought process.
The other idea we had for people is maybe some sort of geek of the week. Do you want to tell people more about that?
Yeah. So our idea for the geek of the week, even though most of you are probably asking yourselves, how can you have a geek of the week if you're releasing monthly episodes? Well, we're going to do it. We're going to acknowledge you in each episode. So in the episode, we're going to take the member from each week, and you're all going to get a spotlight in that month's episode, as well as we're also going to take one of your social media links of your choice, and they are going to be in the description of that episode when it airs. So that way people can take a look at where you're from, what you're about, and maybe connect with you. And who knows, you might find some meaningful connections within the community. Um, One thing that I was also thinking was maybe, you know, a couple weeks before we go to film each episode, maybe throw a post up on Facebook and pin it to the top. And that way there's a place for you guys to um, ask your questions or leave a comment or maybe share something that you would like to see us talk about. Whether it's a movie, a comic, something tech, if you want to ask Brad a tech question, and things like that. Just another way for you guys to be able to interact with us.
And I think that's key. That's getting everybody together, getting us all chatting. It's a collaborative effort. I mean, I don't think we can do the show. I mean, we're great guys. It's fun to hear us talk, but maybe you just
Right.
don't want to hear us talk back and forth for an entire episode. Maybe it's like, well, can they just talk about X? And
Right.
we'll spend some time talking about X, or then maybe we'll even have somebody else on the show if there's an expert in the field, or if somebody's out there and they're like, hey, it'd be really neat to be on that show. Drop us a line, because you never know, we might say yes. Probably
Right.
will say yes. Who knows?
I mean, that's the fun thing. My whole thought when I asked you about this, Brad, was I was like, not only would it be fun for us, but what if we could get everybody involved? I mean, if just one video that we did together reignited such a spark within me, maybe we can do that for somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe we can give them the opportunity to ask a question and then they feel like they're a part of our community and we can help them further their spark along or help them answer a question that's been burning in their mind. I don't know. That was just my whole thought process behind it.
Yeah, or even just an improve on something. Like you started by saying, you had some problems with your computer, or you had some problems with technology. We all have those frustrations, right? We all have that stuff that just goes wrong, and maybe you just need to vent to be like, why doesn't everything just work all the time? And I'll be like, well,
Right.
that's because you're using Microsoft. I can't promise that I won't say bad things about really big companies. I can't. I'll try not to, but I can't promise that. If you're a small company and you want some, I'll say nice things about you. But if you're a big company, you're probably going to be a target on my end for evil companies trying to take all my money.
I mean, it's just one of those things. Sometimes it's what you got to do. Um, One thing that I really liked when you said yes to doing this was for me, it gave me it gave me a reignited sense of purpose. I I've always been a geek in every sense of the word, mostly comic books and movies and things like that, and music especially. Music is something that I will nerd out about until the day I'm in the grave. It's always going in my house. My earbuds go with me everywhere, and it's every genre, not just I could be 1 hour it's jazz, 1 hour it's rap. Like it just if the music speaks, that's what I'm listening to. Um, so it's like, man, this gives me a chance to kind of learn because this is something new for me too. Yeah, I do YouTube videos, but this is a whole nother beast. Like the podcast world is not it's not for the faint of heart. You have to be in it, you know?
One of the safety nets is I found that if you're not super popular, you don't get targets for a lot of hate. So once we get really, really popular, we're going to get the hate, but that means we're really popular. So that's a good thing. So it's like,
Right.
it's kind of that finding that line.
It's funny that you say that because I was having a chat with my coworker the other day, and I said, he asked me, I told him all about the podcast, and he could tell I was really excited. And he asked me, he's like, well, what are some of your goals for the podcast? And I said, well, there's one really big one in my mind. I have two YouTube channels of my own. Neither of them are have more than like 140 subscribers. I was like, for me, it would be really cool to have a channel that reaches 100,000 subscribers. Because for me, that shows that people want to watch for us, for our personalities, for our realness. And it's just also the plaque, man. The 100,000 subscriber plaque, okay? I've always wanted one. I mean, maybe it's me being vain, but man, that
Yeah.
would look really cool back there. Just saying.
No, that makes sense. What's interesting is there's always two sides to every coin. I mean, you can have 100,000 subscribers, you can get the plaque, that can be awesome. And I think for me, just like when we did that show and it reignited something in you, every person that we reignite, my goal is for every that one person that we do that, that's someone that we did, that's someone that reached out, that's someone that was maybe pulled out of their shell. I had somebody a couple of weeks ago reach out to me because they heard the show and they're like, "Hey, I really like the stuff that you're doing. Can I talk to you about it more? Can I chat about it more?" It ignited something in them as well. And I'm like, that's success to me. I'm not saying I don't want 100,000. If 100,000 people subscribe, that's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is that everybody that is part of that collaboration, everybody that works to that, as we support each other as a community, as we pull that out of one another, as we create that creativity, that's my goal. That's my exciting thing. That's what I can't wait to see.
Right. And I mean, I'll come back around to it until the squirrel is dead, so they say. Um, this podcast is community.
Yeah.
You and I have created a community for ourselves where we can talk about all things geek and bounce ideas off each other before we even started the podcast. And that's just my hope. We can do that for other people. And that's really special when you get people that come to you and they're like, hey, I saw this that you did, or I saw this that you wrote. Do you have some time to talk to me about things? Like I love that. That's really special. And I don't ever take that for granted. So
Yeah.
if something that we say or we talk about sparks something for you guys, or maybe you just want to know more, reach out to us. We are always down to chat. That's part of the world.
You know, years ago when I was first on Twitter, like we're talking, I don't know, 2006, 2007, there's an author that he wrote a book and I thought it was really cool. And I just tweeted one time, I'm like, oh, this is a great book. And I just added him, right? Where
Right.
you just add his name. And then he tweeted me back and we had a conversation with, I don't know, it must have been for like 30 minutes back and forth about each other and what we like doing and stuff like that. And I'm like, here's this author, like he's like a best-selling author, just chatting with me like I'm just one of his friends. And I'm like,
Right.
that's what technology brings to the world. Like back before that, maybe you wrote a letter, maybe you wrote a fan letter, maybe he would write you back. But I'm like, this guy's just chatting practically in real time with me. And it's just kind of like, wow, this is what technology can do. And I think when we think about doing YouTube videos and doing podcasts and doing Facebook groups, it's that opportunity to communicate, you know, and it's that one step better than the old-fashioned bulletin board system that they used to have, back in the days of 14 baud modems, because you got the video, you got the rich text, you got the images, and you can really share those things.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because Twitter did the same thing for me. So there's an amazing author. His name is David P. Perlmutter. And he has written several books. He's also an extras actor. He's been in lots of commercials and extras on TV shows and movies. And one of his books is actually being adapted to be a TV show right now. They're in the works of they've got it approved, and now they're kind of in the casting phase and the little detail phase. Um, and fun fact, he was actually the first ever interview on my channel. He
Oh,
was the
really?
first one. Yep. I read his book and I was like, man, I got to tweet at this person. I got to let him know that what this book did for me, because I'm all about crime books and statistics. And come to find out, these are stories that happened to him. And so, we weren't even planning on doing a video, but we got together for a chat and he started telling me the stories about the stories behind the books. And, oh, I just got back from a week in Madrid doing, a shoot for this company. And I was like, wow, like this is legit. Like this person is talking to me like they're my friend. And lo and behold, we're still friends. Like we still talk to each other on a regular basis and promote each other's work. And that's kind of how my passion for interviews kind of kicked off. Was he was the first ever,
Cool.
and it started as we were just two guys bullshitting about life and things that have happened. And before you know it, we're like, hey, are you free next week? Do you want to record a show with me? And I mean, that's kind of deja vu because here we are. You and I,
Yeah,
almost the
yeah,
same scenario,
yeah.
only our scenario is a little bit funnier though. I got to be honest. Like, so for a little bit of background, you guys, I'm gonna share something with you. So Brad and I'm also a mental health advocate, and so I have several socials dedicated to that, and I have for several years. Um, and Brad has followed my stuff for a very long time.
Yeah.
He sent me a message a year ago on Facebook, and I was like, I didn't even know. So like a couple weeks ago, about now, I got a message notification for Facebook for the mental health page, and I was like, oh, okay, somebody wants to talk, or so I got into my messages and I saw it, and he said I would love to guest blog for you. And I'm like, man, I haven't touched my blog in like 2 years. Surely this person knows. And so I sent him a message back and said, hey, well, I kind of don't really blog anymore, but I do have a YouTube channel, if you want to come on and talk there. And so I just waited and I waited and I got a message back, and he said, I sent that a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, it just popped up as new and it was nowhere to be found before it just popped up. So I don't know where Facebook got lost in translation,
So look,
but
Matt gets back to people really quickly, and Matt and I will try really hard to get back to you guys when you send us messages. But if it doesn't get back to you right away, it could be a problem on Facebook's side. That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
It might not be us. It could just be for some reason they held that message for a while and then they sent. But we will get back to you, and it doesn't mean don't feel bad about it. It's just something
Right.
might have got lost in translation somewhere.
Yeah, for real, because I was blown away. I was like, when you told me, oh man, I sent that a year ago, I was like, hold up. Are you for real? Or are you like jerking my chain here? Because that I don't understand. I don't get it. So that was a funny story, and that's kind of how our first video came about. I just thought that I had to share that because that was pretty funny.
If there's somebody out there though, and they do still have a blog and they're looking for a guest blogger, check me out because I'm okay to write on your blog. I love
Right?
writing. I have a blog of my own. I've been doing it for years. So, just if there is somebody out there that's like, hey, maybe Brad could do a guest blog. Just check. See
Right?
what I can do
Yeah.
for you.
I just I thought that was so funny though, and I remember you telling me you were like, "Yeah, I was literally just sitting on my couch and my phone dinged," and I'm like,
Yep.
"That's too funny." Just I don't know how else to put it.
Times have changed a lot. When again, before we had the internet, we get on these things called bulletin board systems, and the very
Mhm.
first person I ever met was on a bulletin board system, and their handle, we had handles, because it was all very like you wouldn't give your name out, you wouldn't give your where you live or your address or anything like that. This person's name was Wheels, and I broke the rules a little bit because we lived not too far from one another.
Right.
We met at a local mall. We sat down, we had a chat, we became good friends, and we're good friends for many years after that. Um, and that's what the internet provides, but you got to be careful with those things. But at the same time, if you don't put yourself out there, you don't know. You never get to meet things, so it's that risk. And I think I was like 16 at the time. So if I don't recommend young people do this, but in today's modern age, we can have chats like this. We can put people on video. It's as far as I know, you can't murder people over a video yet. So so it's a fairly safe way of still
I mean,
having some fun, getting some conversations, meeting new people, and getting along with it.
yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that too because there so many of my best friends I've met through social media. A lot of the people that I work with and I collab with, we've followed each other on social media for a long time, and we just kind of became friends, and we started, venting to each other, talking to each other, checking in on each other, and here we are. I mean, it's a great thing, but also at the same time, like Brad said, you've got to watch out a little bit because there are those people who are just out there to be out there and up to no good. I wish, and this is, I wish there was a internet Batman. Okay. And I say this, and I told somebody else this one time, and they just kind of laughed at me. But I wish there was an internet Batman because if you think about it, Batman, is the crusader of justice, and he's out there cleaning up the streets. Well, why can't we have a Batman of the internet just going around virtually slapping the bad guys and getting them off the internet so they can't cause harm? I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll try and find Batman and be like, hey, man, I know you're rich and everything and you don't need another job, but hear
so
me
for,
out. I have a business opportunity.
so first of all, we don't know that the FBI isn't watching us right now. So
I
they could
mean,
be.
if you guys are watching, if you
Hey, how's
guys
it
are
going?
watching, how's it going? Come join my podcast. We'd love to have you on. Just saying.
If I had to pick an internet Batman, though, do you know the group Anonymous?
Hmm.
They're an ethical, or I would say they're ethical. They're a hacking group
Right.
uh, that go after people, but it's not necessarily predators. You almost need an anonymous for like those predator type people
Right.
that go after those machines because they can shut them down. They say one thing, oh, we'll go after this guy. They got thousands of these zombie machines that go after it, hack it, shut it down. If they twisted that to a little bit of good purpose, and then they know, oh, well, these are the people that are targeting people, going after people, get them off the internet by basically destroying their internet, shutting it
Right.
down, keeping them from ever getting onto anything. And it's scary. It probably could be done if they put some thought into it.
Right. No, I just
Oh, by the way, if you're anonymous, please don't just forget
we're
you heard
cool.
that.
We're
Yeah, we're
cool.
all cool. It's all good.
No, I thought you'd get a kick out of that because I've been mulling around that idea for a while and throwing that at people whenever like, oh, I'm having this problem with so and so on whatever platform. I'm like, if only lurking in the shadows. I mean, you get like a batarang to come across your computer screen. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know, but I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. Um, just so you guys know, we have a whole list of topics to talk about um, for upcoming episodes. And we're always adding to it, so there's not a shortage of topics. Um, I know off the top of my head, we're going to be having a tech episode, which for all of you people who need some help with tech or have questions about certain programs, that will be your big time to really push in all your questions because Brad is going to be going in depth on that episode and kind of sharing a lot of things because it's not my wheelhouse. Okay. Um,
When we signed up, I said we have to do a Zelda episode. That was kind of
yep.
part of the contract with me joining. However, if you don't want a Zelda episode, you better put it in the comments because unless you say you don't, we're going
We're
forward with
doing
the
it.
Zelda episode.
Right. I mean, I was all about it. Also, I think I have a Doctor Who episode down, a
Yep.
Marvel episode, and we have a really special one for May the 4th, which I'm not going to share because I don't want to spoil it, but you're going to love it.
I'll say this: if you can't figure out what it is, you probably shouldn't show up that day.
I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, although there's been a couple of times where so I've had some interviews that I've done on my channel, right? And I've posted on the Facebook page and other socials. So, for example, I have a few coming up with a couple musicians. I don't know when they're going to be releasing because we're trying to plan them around their album launches so we can kind of
Yep.
maximize
Yep.
their their push. Um, but when they first agreed to come on on my show, I was like, I put a post on each of my platforms. It was like, hey, if you haven't checked out so and so yet, be sure to check them out. Here is one of my favorite songs by them. And then I put another post saying, hey, if you haven't checked out so and so, you need to check out. They have a new album coming out then. You never know what can happen. And people are still like, well, who's the show going to be with? Who's going to be this guest on your show? And I'm like, I just I just literally gave you all of the clues without giving you the clue.
Put two and two together.
Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I put it straightforward, you know. And then on one of them, I even put, who knows, we might even get to chat in the future. And still, I get the question, who's this big guest? Who's this musical guest? And I'm like, I can't right now. I just can't.
So you keep saying so and so. If they want to hear their name, they have to pay us to be advertisements on this show. Is that how that works?
Of course, man, I'm all about that nickel and dime. Okay, hashtag nickel and dime life. All right, to be honest.
If anybody wants to send us money, we won't reject it.
Oh God, no.
We're,
What do you think I am, rich?
I think we did have a little chat beforehand, and if you do want something said, we have to truly believe in it. So
Right,
I'm not just gonna advertise, certain brand name of a beverage just because I think it's a good beverage, or pick up its cup on the show. If you want
right.
that, there needs to be some ching ching in that cup as well.
I mean, honestly, though, and it's not even the ching ching for me. It's more of, I mean, that's a plus. But also, I won't vouch for a product unless I truly believe in it.
Yeah,
Unless I believe in the ethics behind it, unless I'm truly fully behind it myself. And Brad and I had that conversation.
yeah,
I was like, hey, man, in the event that somewhere in the future, there's a company that wants to sponsor an episode or wants to jump on board with the channel. These are my parameters. I mean, I cannot promote something that I don't believe in, and if that means that in the entire history of our show we have like 3 sponsored shows and that's it, so be it. But I won't give people a junk product and something that I don't think is useful or is not ethical. I can't do it.
yeah.
Um, so that was a big conversation. We had that conversation a long time ago, actually.
The way that I always look at ethics every day in the morning, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to look at my face in the mirror. And if the image that looks back of me, I can't feel proud of, then I know that that's something that I did wrong or that I'm going to do wrong. So I have to think about, okay, if I do this, am I going to be able to look at myself in the mirror tomorrow and still feel good about myself? Because if I'm not, then it's not worth doing, right? Because
Right.
there's always yourself. For me anyway, I judge myself more than anybody else could possibly judge me. If you think,
Hmm.
oh, that Brad, he's such an idiot, I've already thought it 1,000 times beforehand. So
Right. Yeah. Um, One other thing that I wanted to share with everybody was just because Brad can only do once a month shows, that doesn't mean that on occasion there won't be a second show. Because I do have, Brad and I have talked about this and we'll continue to talk about it, but there are a few people who are kind of prevalent in our geek community when it comes to certain things that, unbeknownst to Brad, I haven't told him yet, but I'm telling him now. They've said yes um, to coming on and doing a show. So if there's ever a time that Brad can't be here, or we're like, hey, people are really supporting us, we want to give them something, I can
yeah,
call upon those people and be like, hey, do you want to be my co-host for the day? And we can talk all about this or all about what they've got going on. So I'm just want you guys to know on occasion, there might be more than one. If we can swing one, there will be. But, two busy adults, I don't know, but there's possibilities. So,
I think at the end of the day, success is going to be driven by what we see. We see lots of people views, we see lots of people commenting, we see lots of people interacting. We want to keep that momentum going. And if that
mhm,
means we have extra people on, if that means we change things around, if that means we have to change the format, like it needs to be about what you guys want to see on the show. And then, frequency, like 12 episodes once a month, I can handle, right? Other people come on other times, that's awesome. If everything really takes off and things are going super, I could come back for more. I could do more,
right.
but it's just a matter of that balance, right?
Right.
It's like see what you see. There's a guy that I like, Dave Ramsey. Oh wait, I wasn't supposed to say his name unless he pays me. But there's a guy, but he's like
You done it. You
the
caught
difference
us.
between a job and a hobby, right? A
Right.
job makes you money, a hobby doesn't. It doesn't mean hobbies are bad, right? We're doing this, it's a hobby. I'm not making any money off it. It's fun, it's
Right.
a hobby. People, we start building that momentum, we start getting something out of it, well, then it has the opportunity to be more. But it's sort of, we're in that test run. Let's play around. Let's see. And, let's see if we can make a community. Let's see if we can bring people together. Let's see if we can get those ideas shared. And I know I'm pretty excited about the Ask a Geek segment because that's something that I've always found interesting is people will ask some very interesting questions. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want to ask that. I might sound stupid, right? But we don't have to give your name. We don't have to
Right.
say, Jane in Illinois asked this dumb question. It's not going to be like that, right? It's like somebody asked this question. It was a really neat question. Let's talk about it. What do people think about that? So don't be
Exactly.
afraid to reach out.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the things that Brad and I talked about from the beginning was the sense of community that we want to create. So if you guys don't like something that we're doing or you have feedback, share it because we want to bring you something fun to listen to, something to help ease the monotony and be able to create a community for all of us to be able to have a conversation and be able to share, like, oh, hey, did you see the new trailer for this? Or, this new song from this person? Like, that's what we want. And so, as long as you like what we're doing and you're sharing your ideas and bringing everything to us, we're going to keep going. And like Brad said, who knows? Somewhere down the road, we might be able to do 2 episodes a month, or so we'll just have to see what happens. You know. Um, but with that being said, I think that is a good place for us to stop, my friend, for an
Yeah, I
introduction
mean,
episode.
for sure. Like I said, if you want more, if you think this is interesting, if you want us to talk about certain things, just put it out there and we'll go with it. And I think it's going to be a blast. Today's a blast. Like, I mean,
Right.
let's just keep that excitement going. Let's just keep that thing going. But for that to work, it requires you guys out there. It requires you guys to put stuff in the comments. It requires you to subscribe to the channel. It requires you to go to Facebook, ask your questions. asks your questions. You know it's time to end when I start sounding drunk in my speech.
I mean, you know, calm down, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere.
If we go too long, I'm going to start slipping into my Cape Breton accent.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we should probably take care of that. But no, in all seriousness, guys, thank you so much for checking out our introduction episode. We hope that you enjoyed it and that you will stick around and come back when we release our next episode. Um, so
Yep. Like
please,
and subscribe.
yes, like and subscribe. I don't often say that in my videos, but man, if you want to see more, like, subscribe, and leave a comment on what you would like
Leave a
to see.
leave a comment. Yeah, so we know where we're going and where we want to be and how it's going to go.
Exactly. With that being said, Brad, it's been a hell of a time. It's
Yeah.
been fun.
All
But
right.
until the next one, take it easy, man.
You too.